Congressman Darrell Issa in Washington, D.C. He's actually there voting tonight, so I appreciate you breaking away to spend some time with us, Congressman Issa. We spent billions to fix this wall, and is it possible that it could have been cut big enough for an SUV to come through?
Oh, absolutely, Lou. And remember that when Duncan Hunter Sr. envisioned that wall, he envisioned the wall in order to give the men and women of the Border Patrol the edge on securing the border. It doesn't work without the Border Patrol being enabled and without the kind of cooperation from Washington that they need, which in the last few months they've lost. The volume coming through the border, the number of people rushing the border, the problems they're having have eliminated the ability to put enough Border Patrol agents along the border to detect when these kinds of cuts and activities are occurring. And it is the biggest difference between 6 months ago and today is that we've welcomed illegal immigration, and now our men and women at the border are swamped. Every time a large group shows up and said, I talked to the Border Patrol folks today, every time a large group shows up and says that they want their amnesty, they're here for asylum, what ends up happening, this vast number, thousands of, a lot of them being young people, 17, 18, 19, that means that Border Patrol agents are tied up getting them through the process instead of standing those posts. And it's beginning to show with these kind of penetrations, and it's only going to get worse.
Are you going to be that's a fantastic point, that if you put pressure on the agents, then a very, very good wall that's smart is of no value, because if the bell rings or the alerts come across and there's nobody there because they're tied up doing other things that the administration have shifted priorities to, then we're just as vulnerable as if we didn't have the wall in the first place. Are you going to be making a statement on that, or talking about that, or elevating that point?
We are. It's happening so fast with the change. And as you know, the administration is saying it's not a crisis, it's a challenge. But the challenge, unfortunately, to them is how fast can they process new Americans that are coming across the border, because we have gone back in a matter of weeks to the old catch and release. The Border Patrol is simply processing people into release into society, the vast majority of whom, even if they claim an asylum claim, they're never going to show up for court. They're simply in America. And it's impacting law enforcement beyond the border. And, of course, it's impacting the immigrant communities who now no longer have the kind of security that allowed them to operate safely as new citizens. And this particularly affects Hamul, El Cajon, La Mesa, all these communities that lie near the border that became very safe are now becoming unsafe again.
You mentioned the difference between a crisis and calling it a challenge out of this administration. I'm a firm believer that words matter. Tone matters. The kinds of words that are used matter. There is definitely a change of tone with respect to border security. Is there any sense that the kinds of words that this administration is using are causing more pressures on the border? I mean, do they get it? Do they see the cause and effect of the language they're using?
Oh, they absolutely get it. But again, it's a challenge for how fast they can process people into America. It is no longer a challenge to secure the borders. The men and women of the Border Patrol and ICE are dealing with that every day. They're crying for help. Their union leaders who are allowed to speak freely have been. But again, as long as the administration says it's a challenge for how fast we can process people, rather than a challenge to make our borders safe, to continue working with the countries we deal with, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, the way the Trump administration did. Remember, the Trump administration said, look, we'll take asylum seekers, but we want you to agree to take back those who have no valid case for asylum. They agreed to do so, and this new administration has just negated all those agreements to take back people who, in fact, are falsely claiming asylum, and they're simply trying to jump to the head of the line ahead of millions of people who stand for years waiting to come to America legally.
U.S. Congressman Darrell Issa, thank you so much. Good to borrow you for just a quick second on a Wednesday night there in Washington, D.C. We'll talk with you again. 800-600-KOGO, 800-600-5646. Well, look, Issa makes a strong point. If you change conditions in which what Border Patrol agents are supposed to be doing, then a fortified wall that is a smart wall that, even if it's cut, and alert you exactly within, I don't know, a quarter of a mile of where the breach occurs, is of no value because you got Border Patrol agents busy doing other things, or under a tremendous level of pressure because many people are trying to breach the wall.